What's up, everybody? I hope you are having a great Wednesday. I'm very excited to be hanging out with a new friend and somebody that I'm pretty stoked to be talking to, because not only do they have some of the coolest tech, some of the coolest opportunity for doing video just like this, but this guy is absolutely looking forward to the future. The vision that they have here at Social Live is absolutely incredible. I have the one, the only, the CEO and founder of Social Live, David Morica. David, what's up, man?
What's up, Josh? Thanks so much for having me. I feel like I need to replicate your energy. It's awesome.
Dude, one thing, what I lack in knowledge, I make up for in enthusiasm. We like to have a good time. We like to have a lot of fun here. And I'm really excited to have you hanging out with us. Like I said, the founder, CEO of Social Live. And we're going to get into that here in just a sec, because they're going to be like, well, what is Social Live? Why Social Live? We talk a lot about it on our show and our broadcast, because that's what we're using right now. And as everybody knows, with LinkedIn Live just coming on, it's trying to find the best way, the best system and tools to really open up the opportunity for a simulcast, for multicasting. Yep. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, tell us, for everybody joining us who doesn't know David, tell us a little bit about you, about your background, and how you even came up with Social Live.
Yeah, well, appreciate that. I'm a lawyer by training, crazy enough, but thankfully I never practiced. No offense to those lawyers out there. I spent 13 years in New York City before moving to LA 4 years back. And while I was in New York City, I worked in strategy consulting at a company called McKinsey, and then joined a children's publishing company called Scholastic down in New York City. And basically became a corporate entrepreneur, and just decided at a certain point to go do it on my own. And it has not been a direct line from A to B to get to Social Live, but here we are today, and it's really coming together.
I was gonna say, and it's coming together nicely. So how did you come with Social Live? Did you just see a need? There wasn't anything that were you trying to do a video or a simulcast? Or, I mean, how did it come to be? I talked to so many tech companies, and they come up with a story like, well, honestly, it was totally by accident. Or how did it work for you?
Yeah, I think if you talk to almost every entrepreneur, it's, the overnight success is not a realistic thing. It's really, in our case, has been a scrappy and kind of iterative journey to get here. The business was actually other things before it became Social Live. Most recently, it was a live music streaming platform. We were streaming DJs into clubs from LA into Vietnam and things of that sort. So crazy stuff. Two-way, where we were connecting like into Vietnam and back to LA. But what was interesting is building that technology, which was way ahead of its time, quite frankly. But building that technology really helped us kind of, I think, for this moment in time. And some of the brands we were working with at that point, namely Smirnoff, started to ask us to distribute the video content we were doing with them into Facebook when Facebook Live launched. So we immediately saw an opportunity, like, look, the next stage of this, kind of social media was going to be all about live. We had done the heavy lifting of how to kind of create an interface that was easy to create live video and also to bring in multiple guests. And then it was all about connecting into Facebook and then ultimately Twitter, YouTube, and so forth. And here we are with LinkedIn. So that's really where we got there. It was a customer had a request. We started seeing there's a bigger opportunity. We tested it for a week and got like 20 demos within the first week and said, all right, this is what the business is now.
That is going from a DJ, basically streaming music across the world, and now you're going into all industries, real estate. I mean, real estate and mortgage that we're talking about. There's so many applications for it, and I think that's what's exciting, because in a world of technology, in a world where people they're starting to turn to video, they're starting to turn to podcasts, but more than even podcasts, it's doing this, having these type of interactions, being able to build relationships via video, and being able to broadcast. Like you said, you guys are broadcasting around the world. Now, we don't really broadcast around the world in mortgage and real estate so much, but even so, doing it here locally within the U.S. is still a really cool. So as I've got to ask this, because this is one of the questions that, I've asked a couple other people, but you guys have the unique opportunity to be one of the first to be with LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn Live is it's a growing opportunity. A lot of people don't even have access to it yet. But how did you guys get that opportunity?
Yeah, so in 2016, when Facebook Live launched, we saw metrics that were very, very high, and we were very fortunate, I think, to land some pretty large enterprise brands right out of the gates. folks like Audible, for example. And through partnering with them, we really started understanding the power of live video, and not just at a kind of like conceptual level, like how to actually use live video to drive the right engagement and even drive the funnel. So we were thinking about live video, not just as like, hey, this is cool, but how you tie this into your overall customer acquisition strategy, right? And so I knew kind of the brands we were working with, I knew that LinkedIn was going to be the natural kind of evolution, especially for the B2B. But from the corporate perspective, how do you start telling your story? LinkedIn was the right platform for that to happen. So I was quite fortunate in that I knew someone who took over the VP product role at LinkedIn Video, who ultimately owned Live. I started reaching out to him about 2 years ago and said, hey, when's this happening? We went to college together. And I probably hit him up every month to get a sense of when it was coming. And finally, when it was truly coming, he kind of put us in the right touch with the right folks. And fortunately, at that point, we had already had a nice batch of corporate customers who were very interested in the platform. So we were able to usher them in pretty early. And that's also, the partnership, I think, is two-way, in that obviously LinkedIn Live is a huge opportunity for a lot of the customers we work with. Similarly, we can bring some of these big enterprise organizations into LinkedIn Live and help them do it in the way that really works for them.
Absolutely. And that's just it. So you mentioned this, the wave, the era of live video, that is something that is growing. And you guys clearly saw the trend. I mean, 2 years ago, you started reaching out to LinkedIn. That was before anybody had even really started even talking about it. So the fact that you guys knew that trend was coming, and you probably more than most, you probably understand that LinkedIn Live, or live in general, is becoming a more very, very well used platform. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a few reasons. One, let me also start by saying, I think people sometimes make the wrong idea, have the wrong idea that it's either live or recorded video. They think of it as two different lanes. The idea of live video is a moment in time. It's part of the journey of your video content and your customer experience, right? So I always try to work with our customers and say, don't think of live as this like island that's independent of the rest of your video content. Live gives you an opportunity to do something different with that video content, and then you can repurpose it again in different ways after the fact. But why is live working? Well, first and foremost, I think it's about the engagement, right? There's, when you look at video content today, what really works is something where it can be two-way and participatory. We still see a lot of people are broadcasting out live content as opposed to creating a conversation. You guys in particular do a great job of creating kind of a two-way experience with your audience, because that's where this stuff really works. But the other piece is all about authenticity, right? The video that's working from a metrics perspective, and you look at engagement metrics and you even look at referral and conversion metrics, the content that is produced well enough that is brand appropriate, but is human, is authentic, and shows kind of the real view of the brand, that's the content that actually works. And there's something about live that just gives that authenticity. It doesn't feel like a sale.
Well, and that's just it, is people, we all love to go to the movies. We all love to go see a Steven Spielberg or a well-produced show. But when it comes to building a brand, when it comes to that trust, that relationship, when we sit down with somebody, if you're in sales or you're buying a car, doing a home, selling real estate, we as humans are not a Steven Spielberg production. We're not perfect. We screw up. We mess up. So when we're able to do video and we're able to, portray that live, like you said, people talk about authenticity. It's a word that's used a lot when it's coming to building a brand and video. We talk a lot about transparency. You basically, you can't fake it. People are always about fake it till you make it. There's just no faking it in life. You are who you are. Like there's no real way to fake it. And people, in my opinion, I always talk about, people have a really high bullshit meter. Like if you're trying to, if you're just pitching all the time and you're not really who you are, people see through it pretty quick. But I agree with this. So live video. So let me ask you this, in your opinion, so Facebook Live, been around for a while. It's been great. And there are other awesome streaming platforms. I mean, most people don't know you can stream live on YouTube, Vimeo. There's all these other great streaming platforms. But as LinkedIn starts to enter the game, do you think that's a platform that's going to become, you mentioned business to business. There's a lot of that done on LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn and LinkedIn Live, do you think it's going to grow like Facebook Live has?
I think LinkedIn Live, interestingly enough, will grow in a much more linear fashion and also have a lot of kind of long-term sustainability. So Facebook Live, I think, is really interesting, and there's still a great way to use it for big kind of tentpole events or kind of recurring content. particularly for consumer-facing companies. But even with Facebook, you need to be thinking about how you're repurposing that content from a paid perspective, because it's very hard to just get organic reach on Facebook. And I'm sure in LinkedIn, organic reach will also change over time.
Of course.
The difference on LinkedIn is the type of audience and the targeting that you can have here. We're talking about a really engaged audience who is really craving knowledge, who's craving interaction in a way that's different than Facebook, which is why I think this is going to have long-term sustainability, and we may not grow in the way that Facebook did. And also, as you know, LinkedIn is kind of whitelisting slowly new broadcasters to make sure it keeps the quality. But I think you'll see sustainability in that growth because of the quality of the community. As long as the community stays healthy, I think LinkedIn Live will be very healthy.
Well, and I totally agree with that. And we've talked about this on the show quite a bit. Is, in my personal opinion, I think it's actually a good thing. Like you said, LinkedIn didn't just open it up to every broadcaster in the world to jump into the space. And I think they did it wisely, that you have to use you just can't go live on LinkedIn. When we first started talking about LinkedIn, people are just like, well, how do I go live? Why won't you just let me go live? Most people, again, they're not even approved for LinkedIn Live yet, but you have to go through a third-party broadcaster to even go on LinkedIn Live, which again, that just requires the barrier of entry is much higher. It's really those who want to be there, who actually, it really is a pay to play. You have to be, you almost have to pay for a service or a broadcaster to get into the space, which again, in my opinion, and probably yours, is really good for those who are willing to actually be there. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, I think you hit the nail on the head that, LinkedIn, the LinkedIn team is not just looking for loads and loads of live content. They're looking for quality content that generates conversations and builds community in focused areas. In your area, for example, you're in the real estate mortgage space. It's a great arena within LinkedIn. So to be able to build conversation within that community, that's kind of the value of live, on top of obviously kind of native uploaded video.
Of course.
And so I think that is exactly the strategy. And by, I don't know that it's about having third-party tools.
Sure. That
is solely the strategy, but the idea of waitlisting or whitelisting and making it kind of like there's a gate to get in, I actually think it's really smart. It also is smart because you find, LinkedIn will find challenges in the platform that they need to tweak, obviously. And also they start figuring out what content really works, because this is new territory for them as well.
Yep. And I think that's it as well. I don't think you could have said it any better, because LinkedIn's pretty smart about this. Everybody thinks that, and we've had people complain like, well, why doesn't LinkedIn just let everybody in at the same time? Why doesn't everybody just get to be here? Why don't we get to flood the market? The problem with marketers and salespeople is we break shit all the time. Like, we see something good and cool, and all of a sudden everybody floods there. And the next thing you know, and I'm not saying that Facebook Live has become irrelevant. Like, I totally don't think that's the case, but there's more and more, there's been this influx that people are talking about it. People see the value in it. So you're getting more and more people. So there's just a lot more noise. In LinkedIn was very, very smart. They opened it up to a very select few group of people. As a matter of fact, Shred, Jason, and myself are one of only a handful. I mean, we can count literally the people in the real estate realm who are part of it. And Jason and I are part of that group. And Shred, they just are so smart when it comes to really being able to look at the content. And like you said, David, like, okay, what content, because this is new territory for them, the live space. What is everybody engaging with? What are they talking about? What is starting the conversation? Everybody thinks LinkedIn is one of those things that is behind the ball. And there's some argument there, but they've just done it in a way to where they really thought through it, and it was a thought out process.
Yeah, and the whole idea that it's first mover advantage always wins, I don't think that's always true. If you look at history, it's the second and third players, and Microsoft has done this time and time again, where they're slow to the party, but some of the things they execute by seeing, other people's trials and tribulation, other companies' trials and tribulations, they then execute it well. I mean, there's instances where that hasn't been the case as well, but I think there's good instances, particularly in the last 5 years, where Microsoft has waited and then pounced.
Yep. No, I totally agree. So let's switch gears a little bit. We've been talking about real estate. We've been talking about the power of video, the power of live, and especially in the real estate world, it's something that, real estate, they're trying to get better at it, trying to really get there. How do you see social live being a benefit to the real estate world for all of our audience and everybody watching here? How can it really help them grow their audience, grow their brand?
Yeah, so we are really excited about the real estate space. It's not an area we get to spend daily time in, unfortunately, because of where most of our time is at the enterprise right now. But it's great to be connecting with folks like you, because we've had a lot of conversations internally about what are some of the areas, the lanes, the verticals where social live and live video broadly really can work. And live video commerce is an area we're very excited about. We think the next evolution of live video is really live video commerce. I mean, look, it's already happening in China. It's only a matter of time before it happens here. But the real estate space is another one where we think it just makes sense. We've been looking at the data. Video moves the needle when it comes to commercial and residential real estate in terms of, referral traffic, requests for a tour, et cetera. Yet it's used very little. Look at Trulia, Redfin, Zillow. These platforms, there's virtually no video. It's still old school, going through images to figure out, do I want to check out this house? And I asked you earlier before we met, what's the challenge? You said complexity is part of it, laziness maybe another part. But it's going to happen. These younger kind of hungry residential and commercial real estate agents, as well as mortgage brokers, they're going to need to stand above the noise. And video is going to be key to that. Live video is really going to be key to that. And ultimately, Zillow and these other channels, they're gonna have to open up a live video channel where featured listings, show it now 1-to-1. You can have 1-to-1 or 1-to-few to many. Broadcast it out. Inventory will move even faster.
Oh man, see that's, guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, that is one of the ways where social live, and I want to get into this next because your guys' app, it continues to get better. We downloaded it recently. You guys have some, I don't know if we can talk about some of the big updates, but some of the things and ideas and plans that you guys have, this is going to make it, we talk about simplicity. And that's one of the things that especially when it comes to the real estate and mortgage, so many people, they're slow to adapt. They're slow to move, but you guys, like you're looking forward to the future. So talk about social go is what you're calling it, right?
Social Live Go, yeah.
Live Go.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, first off, let me kind of reiterate what you said, which is we are always driven as a product company by ease of use. You could have a really robust technology, but it's not going to get adopted by individual users or corporate users unless it's easy to use. There's just too many other things that will, obstruct that adoption. So ease of use is really critical, and we continue to become a primary driver within our platform, while at the same time making sure you have agility and power to do some of the robust things you want to be able to do. Now, I think for the real estate space, and you would probably have an even better sense than me, but I feel like mobile is really the key, right? I mean, in general, I believe mobile is the key across the board, not just for consumption, but for content creation, right? So we're investing heavily in our Social Live Go mobile app. And to date, you can easily broadcast from Social Live Go across several channels, as well as several unlimited pages at the same time. So you could push your content live across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, Vimeo, your own website. Hey, if Zillow opens up an RTMP, you can deliver it there too. So, I mean, the idea is to make it easy to push content out. We're adding within Social Live Go the ability to invite guests into your broadcast. So you can join a broadcast via mobile right now, but you'll soon, in the not too distant future, be able to invite guests into your broadcast. So you can have HD quality conversation, FaceTime-like, but with HD quality that you can then push out across channels. Wow. So that'll really open up the conversational aspect of Social Live, which we already have here in the Social Live Web Studio, which we're using right now. So very focused on that. And we do have an embeddable player as well. So for those of you who are looking to kind of drive video into your own channel, let's say you're Keller Williams, right? And you want to be driving kind of content at your own website. You could be using the Social Live Embed Player, live broadcasting, video in there, which gets archived, and you can more easily kind of populate your universe with new listings that's video driven, not just image driven.
And I think you mentioned this earlier. I think that's the wave of the future. Images are great, like fantastic. But even if you look at some of the platforms, I mean, YouTube, which is, I mean, all video, look at the popularity of that. Instagram, more and more videos are getting traction. Facebook, like everything, the world of video, and especially live, you mentioned this earlier, the authenticity, the rawness, the transparency that comes through live video is just it's literally like having a sit-down conversation with somebody. The fact that you guys coming out on mobile, everybody knows who's followed my career and kind of as I've grown my brand, I literally started using Facebook Live on my phone, the two-way where you could add a guest, and it was so like it sucked when I first started doing it. It was so hard to add somebody, and like sometimes it didn't work. So the fact that you guys are on top of this, and this is in the very near future, guys, you got to definitely keep some tabs on this because this is going to be cool. Imagine being able to do a one-on-one if you're doing a listing or if you're with a client or they're out of state and you're able to do that one-on-one via phone. That's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. That's where it's heading, and when it gets there, it'll move fast, I think. But yeah, it's all about mobile in the future, and it's all about making the transactional experience easier. I think in your case, it's not necessarily a home buy, but it's certainly getting that information so that the person will join the tour, book a tour, check out the listing, and more volume of inquiry will lead to faster conversion.
And that's what it's all about right now. Everybody's trying to sell homes quicker and quicker. Lack of inventory, that's one issue that we wish we could solve. But being able to have having the technology, being able to get it out to people on this type of platform, it just simplifies. Again, it goes to what you're saying, David. You're able to really give people that live experience without ever being in the home. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for it. You mentioned some big names. I agree. And especially being at Inman last week when Jason and I were there, seeing some of these tech companies, there's a lot of focus in a lot of other spaces, but video where Jason and I and you guys clearly see the future, there's not a lot of companies focused right there. And I think as you guys continue to perfect social live and continue to put out these great tools, people are going to be turning to you guys. People are going to be saying, hey, how do and not only just for the platform, but to learn, to get better at these type of platforms. Because as we all know, it's something like, it's not easy. Most people can't just jump on a live and they can't just spitball. They can, but they choose not to. But when it becomes simpler and easier, they'll get that opportunity.
Well, let me also add a couple things. We've talked a lot about live, but again, I think it's important to think about video content, the entire journey of the video content, and live being kind of a moment along that journey. So for one, with Social Live Go, you also have the ability to kind of capture video and have it go straight back to the Social Live library and be able to repurpose it in certain ways. For even those people who are not ready to go quote unquote live, there's an ability to use this technology to capture video and then repurpose it. So you're putting more video out more quickly, right? So that's one piece. It doesn't always have to be live. But even with the live content, it's important to note that over 50% of your audience may not see it live, but that's okay. They're going to enjoy the authenticity of that experience. And if you think about how you're going to repurpose that live content into smaller segments from a paid perspective, so, hey, how do I take 30-second segments out, repurpose it from a targeted paid perspective on, say, a Facebook and other channels, that's where you get really kind of amortize the value of your video content. If you think about it all as just a moment in time, I go live once, you might find it's not for you. But if you think about it as a part of the overall journey of video content creation and publishing, then it's going to make total sense.
I was going to say that is a perfect, we've been talking a lot about live, but that's a small opportunity. You have to look at the big picture. And I tell everybody, so when it comes to building a brand, especially, and using social media in particular, it's a long-term game. It's not just doing one quick live, one and done. You take that content, you repurpose it. If anybody who watches my show or anybody who watches us at Shred Media, you'll see that we'll do lives like this, and then we'll make 3 or 4 segments that we'll use it. Maybe in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, we'll purpose a small piece of this conversation where I'm like, wow, that was a great piece of content. We're going to repurpose that. We're going to reuse it. We're going to boost it, whatever it is. That's how you have to look at video content in particular. And that's why it's so powerful. You look at guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, some of these people who do incredible jobs with video content. And like I said, they're doing lives, they're doing, speaking engagements, and then they're going and cutting those up, and then they're just using them in all these different platforms. And that's what's so cool about Social Live too, is because again, you can repurpose them from here throughout. That's what blew my mind, to be honest, David. We had tried a bunch of different platforms, but the fact that we could go on Facebook, YouTube, right now we're streaming to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Vimeo, like we have all these platforms and we're streaming to multiple pages on Facebook. That just blew my mind that we could do that. So it's so cool. The opportunity is there. People just really need to take advantage of it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate those kind of words.
Well, man, like I said, it has been so much fun, like to get to know the platform as you guys can see, the overlays, being able to add graphics. This is something is going to become even even more simple for you as a user? I know that was one of the biggest questions that we got when Jason and I started using it was, well, hey, is the platform simple? Can somebody who's not really tech savvy be able to get on and use it? And Social Live has been one of those platforms. Now, is there a little bit of a learning curve? Absolutely. But with any technology platform, there is. You just have to be willing to put in a little bit of time to get used to it. And with parting words, David, is there anything that Social Live is doing? We talked about the mobile app. We talked about some things, but anything big on the roadmap that's really like, wow, this is going to be really cool. This is exciting for you guys.
Yeah, so we talked about mobile. Kind of on the web side of things, you know, we are focused on a lot more, creating even more simplicity and power within the platform. So we're creating a component called Scenes, which will really allow you to set up your entire run of show beforehand. And then it, you know, with hotkeys, you're literally just be able to toggle on or off. So you have kind of like the ability of like a full-fledged switcher, if you will. But you know, you can set it up in advance, and I think that's really going to change the ease of use. You know, from a distribution perspective, we continue to engage with a number of, you know, distribution platforms that are beyond just the core social platforms. Like we think social has been the catalyst, but the future of video will be beyond social as well. So, you know, we have a Shopify app now for those folks who do live video commerce or exploring live video commerce. While Shopify is in its early days, I think from a video perspective, we think the next wave will be, you know, video within Shopify, and we hope to have those conversations with other, you know, large e-commerce platforms. That's something that I'm really excited about. You know, I think the other thing will be, you know, we'll start being able to bring more analytics and commenting, aggregation and polling across channels, which you know, is an area we think just is a big opportunity because no one seems to synthesize that really well for the content publisher.
Well, and the engagement side of it, we talked about that a little bit earlier. People love like to engage. Sometimes they don't like to comment, but being able to gauge where you have polls, and you guys have that. We've used that part of your Social Live already, where we have down here at the bottom, like people can engage, like, hey, great comment or this or that. People, although they're watching, sometimes, like I said, it's not all about, they don't want to actually type out a response, but being able to engage in polls and have this interface, if you will, being able to be part of the broadcast when they're not actually part of the broadcast is pretty cool. And again, you guys are doing a great job with this. So David, it's been a ton of fun. We cannot thank you enough for spending an afternoon, spending a little while of your afternoon. We know you guys are doing some incredible stuff. We look forward to continuing to partner with you guys with Social Live to watch all that you guys continue to do. And yeah, the real estate, I think there's a ton of opportunity here, and we're looking forward to working with you guys in it. Same. Let's go conquer the real estate space, man. A lot of opportunity. So let's do it. I love it, guys. I guarantee you got something cool out of this. You definitely, if you're looking to start doing the multicast or just looking for a better platform where you're looking to add graphics to really expand your video, you really got to check out Social Live. Give us a shout. We'll get you in touch with these guys. It is absolutely something that's going to help you step up your game. And really, like David mentioned earlier, is going to make you a little bit different. It's not always about being perfect. It's about being different, separating yourselves from the masses, and this will absolutely help you do that. So with that, as I always say, guys, I appreciate you. I love you, and we hope you have a great rest of the day. We'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks for having me.